Welcome to the Next Level Show. This is your host, Bob Gibbons. We're excited to have you for another great show. And today, I'm excited because we are talking to Dale. Dale is our CEO. Well, I don't know if CEO. We'll get to the title thing in a second. Groove Jones is the company. Dale Carman is the guest today. And you know what? If you've ever thought about how you want to create a better experience for your customers or the people you want to be your customers, this is the show for you today because you can't believe some of the stuff that's going on at Groove Jones. And if you want to learn more, go to groovejones.com. Welcome to the show, Dale.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So first question, what the heck is Groove Jones? That's such an unusual name.
Groove Jones, we are a creative studio. We are a creative shop that creates experiential experiences. So my background is in the animation storytelling area, animated films, feature films, commercials, and then began doing animation is definitely a passion. So that's definitely a through line with even if you come to me with a non-animated idea, I end up
You're going to find a way to put it in there?
Animated idea. And a lot of times, some of the favorite animated things that I've done have been invisible, where you didn't even realize that was animated, or didn't even realize that was, computer generated or had visual effects in it. So so it doesn't have to necessarily be obvious, So we're storytellers, and one of our favorite ways to do that is with experiential things. Even whenever I began in the print world, so doing print advertising, even whenever it was print, there was always a story. Mm-hmm. It was like that was a moment, and whenever I would show family, friends what I created, I would tell the rest of the story. What was happening in this moment, in time for this print piece. And with what we're creating today, we're doing things in augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality. There's a lot of different AR, VR, MR, XR, that people are throwing around.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it is something you experience, and it's new. It's a new medium. It's actually been around for a very long time. But it was just not accessible. It was prohibitively expensive, and so nobody had access to it. But VR, people have been doing VR. NASA's been doing VR, for a long time. But it just was too difficult.
Gotcha.
And it's now more accessible, and the power that is accessible to everybody. In 1994, one of previous company that I started, I bought a supercomputer, and it was $1 million.
Oh my goodness!
Which was a lot of money at that time, a lot of money today, but no exaggeration, my phone is more powerful than that.
Yeah.
Today.
Was that what was it? The IBM AMS?
It was a Silicon Graphics Onyx supercomputer. Wow. So the size of a refrigerator.
And that was small compared to the previous supercomputers, which was the size of a room.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. So the ability to have higher functioning devices is what then gives you the ability to create the VR and AR and all those other things, because previously we just didn't have the devices to crunch that amount of data.
It was truly not possible.
Interesting. And I know I see the same thing happening in other fields, like with light.
Right.
The evolution of the LED light allows things to be occurring now that couldn't occur before.
Right.
And those things are coming together in such a way. Power supplies with LED lights now allow people to do things that weren't possible before.
Right.
So this is happening in so many fields. It's amazing to watch. Where is it going to go next?
Right.
I just can't ever figure that out soon enough to make any money on it. So let's go back. So where does the Groove Jones name comes from?
So the Groove Jones name comes from one of our coworkers and former partners who had written a screenplay for an animated show about a character named Groove Jones. Oh. He was the title character in it, and galaxy traveling, funk band And we all just loved it. And so whenever we were working on coming up with a name, which is a tough thing to do, especially for a creative group, it's like, the shoemaker has no shoes problem. We all just went Groove Jones. That's it. Our one of the pieces of imagery that we have on our website and in a lot of our material is this bear.
Yes, I've seen that.
And he's a bear is vicious and powerful. And we have him in a tuxedo, in a suit, in a tuxedo.
And he has a hat on, doesn't he?
And he doesn't have a hat on, but he could. Sometimes he does, maybe.
Okay.
But it's this sort of controlled, unlimited potential. It's this ferocious, ferocious possibility. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
So I like the name just because it begs a question.
Right.
Always. It creates a conversation.
Right.
So I like that a lot. Did I read somewhere so Groove Jones was never I thought I read somewhere where it was mentioned in a song at some point. Did I dream that?
I think you dreamed it.
I shouldn't read about you before I sleep, and then I don't know what I'm talking about. So let's go back to previously. I mean, did you start off as an entrepreneur from the beginning? I mean, you come out of college or whatever saying this is my own path?
I started, at 17, I started my first business. And it was a design business. I was going to college at Oklahoma Christian up in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I needed a job, and so I got a job at Radio Shack. Because I liked technology, and you got paid a commission, and I was like, all right, this will be good, part-time job while I'm in college.
Yeah.
Only problem is that the commission on a 39-cent capacitor, not that great.
A little weak.
And so, I didn't work full time. I was trying to be responsible, and I enrolled in the insurance plan. And so after a 2-week period, after they took out the insurance and after they took out taxes, my paycheck was $6.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh.
And so I was like,
ouch.
Well, that doesn't really do much. And so I actually left work that day and was going to meet somebody and stopped by this little, strip shopping center, just a collection of stores. And there were about 10 stores, and I just started going in them and said, hey, can I speak to the owner? Can I speak to the manager? And said, hey, Dale Carman, I own an advertising agency, and, seeing if you need any help. I ended up getting 3 clients.
Wow.
And so I left there and I said, all right, I'm starting
out of the 10?
Uh-huh. And I left there. I said, okay, I'm starting a design business. And this was right at the beginning, really before the beginning of desktop publishing.
Okay.
And so this was the beginning of sort of my creative technology journey.
So would this have been like late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah,
kind of thing?
88.
Okay.
And so the Macintosh SE had just come out, still the small all-in-one black and white, tiny little guy. But I saw the potential in that and said, if I do this, I can do my own typesetting, I can do my own layout, I can, do more for.
What made you think that you could do this? I mean, why advertising? Were you already just as a hobby doing animation?
I was doing illustration. And so I initially had gone to school with the intention of becoming an illustrator. And then I learned there's not really a lot of illustration jobs. And so I defaulted to, okay, well, I'll get into advertising because I could still do art and design and illustration. And so I would just end up, if I came up with a project, I would, have illustration be a part of it. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there was always a story behind it, a character, more to the story. So,
did you do your own comic strips? Did you?
Yeah, my favorite thing to do in school was get my work finished so that I could go get a blank piece of paper and start drawing.
And did you ever sell that or put it like in the student newspaper or anything like that?
I would do, I would do stuff for I ended up doing this giant mural for homecoming, of Max Headroom.
Right, I remember him.
And then I ended up, creating a piece that ended up winning the Jim Wright Congressional Art Show and hanging at the rotunda of the Capitol building. And so I think early on I was like, all right, I can draw stuff and people respond to it, and
Nice. So when you got those first 3 clients at 17, what'd you do for them?
Menus, brochures,
Just whatever collateral they needed.
Whatever they needed.
And once you drew it up, then did you partner with a printer to create the
stuff? Yeah, I needed to learn how to do all of it. Because the traditional process was slow, was expensive, and I was trying to do it all myself, and so that's where I got into desktop publishing and learning that, hey, a computer can help me perform these other functions. And it was in the very beginning of those days, and so I would. I was too young to know better, right? So I would just call Adobe and Aldus at the time, Aldus PageMaker, and just say, hey, I heard you guys made software that could do this. Can I have it?
Send one over.
Can I have a copy? And ended up, forging a relationship, becoming a beta site, getting to test it and give them feedback and then have the software. And then
That's awesome.
So.
All right, we're going to take our first break. We will be right back with Dale Carman right after this. Welcome back. This is Bob Gibbons. We're talking to Dale Carman of Groove Jones, and check him out online, groovejones.com. It's spelled just like it sounds, groovejones.com. So before the break, we were talking about when you were just getting started at 17 years old and you're trying to find ways to create your content for your advertising clients. You do that through college the whole time?
Yeah, so I ended up was trying to get through college as fast as possible. I was valedictorian of my high school and ended up getting, CLEPing out of most of my hours. So by the time I started college, I was already junior level kind of status. And so I was trying to just let me get this done and let me,
get it out of the way,
get out there.
Check.
And I ended up working for a small agency in Oklahoma called Owens Newman and interning for them. I didn't know what an internship was.
Meaning I didn't have any money associated with it?
I think I had more grand ideas of what it would be.
Yeah.
And I think their idea was, hey, he'll get coffee for us and make copies for us. And so I went in going, hey, I'm working for a big advertising agency. It was actually a 2-person advertising agency, but they had come from Muroc, which was a big agency, and had done McDonald's stuff. And so I'm like, I'm going to get to work. These are big hitters in the ad business. And so I get there, and they mostly freelanced out their work. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I want to do the work. And of course, at free internship, all they needed me to do was deliver it to the freelancer.
So your job is basically just a delivery boy,
right?
And you're wanting to actually do the work.
And so I was like, "Can I do this one?" They're like, "You can deliver this." And so one day I was like, "All right, well, I will do what you ask. I will deliver this." But I went ahead and made a copy of it, and then I did it myself. And then I came in the next day or whenever it was due, and gave her 2 versions. Gave the creative director 2 versions, and she's like, "All right, this is incredible. I want this one." And I said, well, I did that one. She's like, okay, well, here's another one. And so I started doing, by the end of that summer, I was doing everything for them. And I asked if I could, they had this utility closet. It was a really big closet. And I asked if I could have it and turn it into my office. And so it was kind of a storage room, and I put a desk in there, put a lamp in there, and put my drawing table in there and turned it into my office. And then I'm doing everything for them. I'm designing billboards. I'm designing their paper cups, for the Taco Mayo was one of our
Oh yeah.
customers, and so did their placemats. I'm doing all of this work.
Are you getting paid yet?
I think by the end of the summer I was getting paid a
A
little.
little bit.
And I was getting paid because it got to the point where I had so much work to do that I needed to hire freelancers to help me.
Wow.
And so I call up the school, and I had just finished my freshman year, and so I called up the school. I'm like, I need the top seniors to bring their portfolios, and I've got work.
So you're 18,
I'm 18,
and you're basically the creative director for an advertising agency,
right? And so they all come in. They're showing me their work. None of it's good enough. But I went ahead and hired a couple of them, and then they did the work, and they didn't know how to do anything. They hadn't actually done any real work. They didn't know how to do it, and so that was a point where I was like, I don't know about school, And I forgot to mention I had a full scholarship, but by the end of that first year, I never went to class. So, and I had made a deal with all of my teachers. So, if you don't, because they had a strict attendance policy, I said, if you don't count me absent, if I make an A, then don't
count me
absent, because I made an A, so everything's good.
It's like you're clumping the class.
Right. And so I never went to class. I made an A on all the exams. So at the end of that summer, I'm delivering some press-ready film to the printer, and I run out of gas, and I'm on a 4-lane road in Oklahoma City. There's no shoulder, and I'm out of gas. So I coast to the side, get over as far as I can, turn on my hazards, walk to the corner, buy a gas can, fill it up with gas, walk back to my car. I've got my hazards on. I've got my trunk open. I've got my door open, and I'm pouring gas into the vehicle. And then next thing I know, I'm in the middle of the road.
Oh, my goodness.
And it just felt – I played football in high school, and it just felt like I got hit really hard by a linebacker. And so I walk back to my vehicle. I get in the car. I look in the rearview mirror, and there's just blood all over my face. I look down at my leg, and the bone is sticking out of my leg. And so I'm like, oh, I need to deliver this print stuff.
That's your first concern.
And the kid that hit me, he was a 16-year-old kid pulling a lawn trailer, and he comes over and he's freaking out, and I'm like, I'm okay, but I think you need to call an ambulance, and this is before cell phones or anything. Right. And so the police come, and ambulance comes, and it's funny, the police officer, the ambulance people are like working on me, and the police officer's filling out the report, and he goes, whoa, stop. You were outside of the vehicle when this happened? I'm like, yeah. He goes, hang on a second, I've got the wrong form.
Oh my!
Because he was doing a auto form, and it was a auto pedestrian form. Anyway, ended up breaking my nose, breaking my leg, severing my calf muscle, messing up my knee, a lot of different stuff. So I didn't register for that fall semester, and it was like, all right, well, I'll just sit out a semester, and then I'll just work full time, and I'll go back in January.
And you were still waiting?
And so January comes, and I'm going to go, I go to register, and they're like, oh, since you missed a semester, you've lost your scholarship.
Oh.
And I'm sure I could have,
I got
filled
injured.
something out or whatever. But I'm like, okay, so I never went to class, but now I have to pay for it. So I was like, I'm not going to go back. And so I just focused full time, and then ended up moving to Houston. And I had a client down there that was, that was Bernard Hodis, an agency, and then they ended up hiring me to work there.
So then you got to You're in Houston. You get to start
So
working some bigger
I'm
clients.
in
I
Houston.
assume.
I'm in Houston. I am working for an Omnicom agency. I'm the creative director. I am turning them into kind of a Macintosh desktop publishing.
Yeah.
Introducing them to that world, which was brand new, and really, we're revolutionizing things. It was a very exciting time.
Did the fact that you didn't have a degree at that point matter to anybody?
Well, it's funny because my boss at the time, incredible guy, Barry Siegel, stereotypical New York ad guy, and so we're going to dinner. My wife and I are going to dinner with he and his wife, and talking whatnot, and then his wife kind of stops mid dinner conversation, says, "How old are you?" And right then I'm just like, "Oh my goodness, he's gonna fire me.
The gig is up. I've been found out."
And I'm like, 18.
Oh, you were 18 at that point?
I was still 18. I hadn't turned 19 yet.
Oh my goodness.
And anyway,
and you're married.
I'm married. Yes.
Wow.
And he just laughs, and we end up becoming everyone at the agency was scared to death of him. He was had incredible high expectations, and driven man, and talented guy, and and I again was too young to know better, and so we just became incredible friends, because I would be like, "Why are we doing it that way? I think we could do it this way. Why aren't we doing this?" And so I just would, and so we ended up, innovating a lot, and doing.
He probably
really well.
appreciated that. If everybody else feared him and
Right.
were basically yes men to him,
Right.
the fact that you didn't do that was
Yeah.
probably what made you most valuable of all.
Yeah, which has become a core concept in everything I've done, both with clients and with employees and with partners. One of our core philosophies is, don't do what I say, do what I meant.
I like that.
Because if I do what you say, maybe you didn't mean that. Maybe you couldn't articulate it well, and especially in a creative field, if you just do what the client says, a lot of times they don't understand, the technology, or they don't understand, how that's going to translate into an end product. And a lot of times what they say is not what they meant.
Yeah.
And
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, and the same ends up holding true for bosses to employees, for supervisors to, what is the intent of what you're telling me?
And that really puts the onus on the person being given the direction to go do something,
Right.
to make sure they understand the intent,
Right.
not just what is said.
Right.
And that's always pushing back. Always, like one of the things I always tell clients, part of my job is to challenge your assumptions,
Right.
and to make sure I fully understand what you want, what you
Right.
need,
Right.
because you may be giving it to me in a language that doesn't translate to what I do.
Right.
So I think that's good that you put that in as a core principle of the company.
And I had a conversation with an employee just yesterday where I had to tell them, stop being nice. I don't need you to be nice.
Yeah.
I need you to make this happen. And we're this team, and one of the other kind of core principles that I've carried through everything that I've done is that this is life or death. Now,
Urgency.
thankfully, nothing has ever been life or death. Like nobody dies if an ad doesn't run. But especially when you have a small business. In the early days of my previous.
Let's stop right there real quick. We got to take a quick break. We'll pick that up on the other side.
Awesome.
So your lease is going to expire in the future, and you're trying to figure out, how soon should I start working on that? Is it 6 months or a year or 2 years before my lease expiration? Well, there isn't an exact date. This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and my clients always meet with me about 2 years before their expiration date, and we create a strategy. and then we review that strategy again a year later. And so we're always working toward what's right for them, not what they think might be an arbitrary date by which they need to figure this out. The keys in determining how much time you need are whether or not you're going to move, whether or not you need to expand, will there need to be construction on wherever you're going to go to, and all those things take more time. So do a strategy meeting a couple years out with your advisor, and that'll make things a lot more clear. For more information, please go to texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com. Welcome back to the Next Level Show, talking to Dale Carman. GrooveJones.com. Go check it out. So you were, I rudely interrupted you just before the break, so please continue.
Yes. So talking about, understanding the intent of what somebody is asking, whether that's a client, asking for something, or whether that's a supervisor, directing something. You have to if you just do what you're told, you end up in trouble.
Yeah.
And one of the other core things that's been a key part of all the teams that I've led is this idea that we have to agree, which initially people are like, "Oh, that's nice." I'm like, "No, I really mean it." So that the typical way that a team works is compromise.
Yeah.
Let's compromise. But tell me something in your life that I can compromise. Can I compromise your bank account? Can I compromise your marriage? Can I compromise your kid's health? Tell me something I can compromise that's going to be okay for you.
Yeah.
Nothing. Can I compromise the integrity of the space shuttle hull? Can I compromise this building that we're, in it? Compromise is just where everybody is equally dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Where good teams and what, I ask for my teams and what I, do for my clients is we're going to fight and we're going to debate until we agree. And part of that process is to understand what the roles are and whose call it is. Mm-hmm. So if it's we have, whenever we're doing animation, it's divided into disciplines, so if somebody's in charge of rigging, which is putting bones and muscles and skeleton, into a character.
Okay.
So that's their responsibility. That's their call, and so they have to make that work and make that decision. But then collectively as a team, we say whenever, we don't agree, or whenever something doesn't look right, or whenever something isn't working, and we debate it until we can come to the point of saying that we agree. And sometimes that agreement is, I agree to back you up.
Yeah.
And one of the litmus tests, one of the ways you know that you did it right, if you have a meeting and you don't debate and you walk out of that meeting and people go their separate ways and then just commiserate with their close friends about how stupid that meeting was.
Yeah. Well, that was a waste.
Then you're doing it wrong.
Interesting.
But if you go out of that meeting and the person who was most vocal with debating is also most vocal with supporting and defending, then you did it right.
Interesting.
So I'm going to tell you, hey, Bob, I don't think that's going to work, and I think that's a bad idea, and I think you're missing something. And we're going to fight it out, and then we're going to understand, okay, so whose call is this? Mm-hmm. And you're going to say, all right, I hear you, but this is what I'm going to do. And then it's my job to say, all right, let's go do that.
And help them make it as good as possible.
I got your back. And,
Interesting. So you had a company called Real FX.
Yes.
And what you were doing there, film and
so
special effects?
It actually started at whenever I was at Bernard Hodis, the agency in Houston. I started coming up with, I wanted to do commercials. So we did print advertising. And so my boss said, well, go find a client that'll do a commercial. And so I went and found the Houston Police Department to do some recruitment advertising to hire new police officers. We ended up getting George Foreman to be the spokesperson, wrote this really cheesy rap song and did a music video. And
George Foreman-ish
yes,
deal.
And it was make a difference on your block, become a Houston cop. And he grew up in the Fourth Ward in Houston, and so it was him speaking for Houston and all of that. It was an incredible success. In fact, we had to pull the campaign off the air because they were getting too much response.
Oh, wow.
So that was the beginning of like motion and animation and story, making moving pictures.
Yeah.
And so I started using computers because I was like, well, how do we do this? Things were done with film. Things were done in a very expensive, very tedious way. And I was like, computers could do this. Again, it was in the very beginning, so computers weren't doing that.
Yeah.
This was before Pixar did Toy Story. And so I saw that world beginning to emerge, and wanted to do that. And so started doing all of the animated, all the commercials for the agency. And we went to Madison Avenue to pitch, hey, let's make a division of Bernard Hodis that would do all this. And they said, no, agencies don't do their own production. And so I left there sad and, heartbroken. But then that was the beginning of, all right, well, I'm going to leave and start my own company. And so started Real Effects in 1993, doing commercials, and then had always desired to do longer form content. Mm-hmm. And so started doing commercials, and then started doing. I did all of the visual effects for a show called Wishbone.
Oh, I love Wishbone.
And so we were doing blue screen work and compositing work and crowd duplication work, really at the time cutting edge work that you could only do at, ILM on the West Coast, and we're doing it,
But you weren't dressing the dog, were you?
No. We were putting them everywhere, but
I love that dog.
Yes, he was great. So started doing that, and then that just grew. I did a ton of Hasbro commercials, and so this is a fun story. We kept pitching them. Let's do a fully animated commercial, mm-hmm. And there's strict rules in children's advertising,
right?
Where you can only have 10 seconds of fantasy, and then the rest has to be, kids holding the toy. Ah. So we were like, we want to do the whole thing animated. So we ended up coming up with a concept, and someone at the agency, said, hey, you could do a fully animated commercial for the website. And this was before websites were a big deal. So it was kind of a throwaway, kind of a side.
You're not advertising the toy, you're advertising the website for the toy.
Go to GIJoe.com to.
Yeah.
And so we did this 60-second and fully animated piece that felt like a movie trailer. And it was just pointing to the website. But we purposely made it feel like a movie trailer, and then asked for permission from the agency and the client to leak it to fan sites.
So this was all on the web. You weren't doing this on TV.
Right. And and it ran on TV as well. But this was before the client even knew that what a fan site was or what a website was or
right.
any of that stuff. And so the fan site started saying, "When's the movie coming out?" Because it looked like a trailer.
Oh wow!
And so we then were able to turn that into, well, let's make a animated movie. Well, Hasbro Entertainment was quickly to say, no, you can't make a. And so we ended up working with the toy team to do an on-pack DVD that would be distributed with the toy.
Oh, I see.
That didn't have to go through kind of the
Regulatory
normal channels.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was enough of a hit that that Hasbro Entertainment ended up coming back and saying, "Okay, let's make an animated movie." So the next year we made an animated movie for Hasbro, and then that kind of grew from there.
So whenever you have Real FX, you run that Real FX for like 22, 23 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you start Groove Jones, what happens to Real FX?
So Real FX is still, alive and well, doing a variety of things, still doing animated movies and, other endeavors.
And you still own it?
No, I am.
Sold it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the big difference between Groove Jones and Real FX?
Well, Groove Jones is a smaller company, smaller partnership focused on this experiential media, where Real FX is a, much bigger organization, making long form content. And I had a difference of opinion on sort of how to do that and how to distribute that and how to fund that.
So I had to go do something else. I
Right.
get it. We won't explore that further. So how long has Groove Jones been around now?
We've been around for 4 years.
And you have 4 partners.
4 partners, yeah.
And did all those partners come from Real FX?
So one of my partners, Scott Howell, was the former client. So he was
Nice.
a client of Real FX and known him for 20 plus years. And then the other 2 partners were from Real FX.
Nice. So this was somebody that all these people are people you knew well.
Yes.
And could very knowledgeably go into this association together.
Yes.
So that's nice. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Bob Gibbons here talking to Dale Carman at Groove Jones. So when you start Groove Jones, you bring these guys, one partner or 2 partners that you were at Real FX, one that was a client.
Right.
And what is the core mission of Groove Jones at that point?
So our core mission was to create a new company with people that you love to be around. So another one of my core principles, I had an employee that worked for me at Real FX years ago, and we had just finished a really tough project, and we're going through growing pains, and he was being recruited by Pixar, to go there, and and he had basically decided to go. And so I ended up going to see him and saying, "Hey, let's go to lunch and talk." And sat down with him, and I was like, "Look, I don't want to talk you out of it. The grass looks greener over there, and it probably is. It's probably cool and soft, lush, and truly more green.
Yeah.
But once you get over there, and you turn around, somebody's gonna toss you a 50-pound bag of fertilizer, and you're gonna find out what makes it green, and you're gonna find out all the parts that aren't green."
Right.
I said, and so at the end of the day, rather than trying to figure out or ask, where can I be happy? The question I ask myself is, who do I want to be miserable with?
That's a good way to look at it.
Because it's hard work wherever, and it's disappointment wherever, and it's struggle wherever, and it's, and all the good. It's all of those things. And so who do you want to be on that journey with? Who do you want to go through that with? And that was something that through the years and through the growth that with Groove Jones, with these partners, I was like, these guys are the guys that I want to do this with. That we're going to have fun no matter what.
Yeah.
And we're going to, have each other's back, and we're going to, and we have had already spent so much time together, knew each other so well, that it was just like, let's go do this.
Now, and I think I read that your title is not CEO. It's like Chief Innovation Officer. Is that right?
Yeah. So I always have been a fan of weird titles. Chief Visioneer has been one that I've used over the years, and Chief Innovation Officer, and so we are the four musketeers that all have a role, and we're it's like a weird old married couple. It's just like, who really is in charge of a marriage? Like, the good ones, not one of them is in charge. It's both. And that's what we are as a partnership. We get in a room, and we trust each other to run. So all of my partners are running full speed. In fact, one of the other rules I have is, like, if all of us are here, then one of us doesn't need to be here. It's like, if it takes all four of us to do everything, like, then it's 4 times too heavy. Like, so we have roles, we have responsibilities that we all,
And everybody has their own unique title that doesn't make sense to the rest of the world.
Some of them are more, normal.
I actually prefer those kind of titles, though, because, there's such a problem with title creep within all industries. And in my industry, in commercial real estate, I'll see some kid who looks like he's, 12 practically, and he's got some sort of, vice president title.
Right.
And it's like, come on, really?
Right.
So for probably the last 25 years, I haven't had a title on it. You look at my business card, there's no title.
Right.
I don't care about a title. And I just want my clients to know if they have an issue, they call me.
Right.
And I'll handle it one way or the other.
Right.
So while I like the imaginative and creative titles, in some situations, I think no title is better than having a title where it raises an eyebrow and somebody's like, come on, really?
Right.
That doesn't make sense. So within Groove Jones, I know you guys deal with augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, and a few other things that I don't even know what they are. What's the difference in all that? What's the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality, for example? I have no clue.
So virtual reality is typically headset based. And so you're putting on a headset, you're truly enclosed, so you cannot see reality.
The outside world is cut off.
The outside world is cut off, and you are now in a new reality.
Okay.
Now, this new reality, when it's done well, and we're really good at it, is so compelling that you assimilate into that reality. I'll tell you a quick story. We were in New York doing a show, and a lady came to do the virtual reality. She had a glass of wine, and she didn't want to let the glass of wine go. So she wanted to do the virtual reality, while continuing to hold her glass of wine. So she
might be a problem
So she
there.
puts on the headset, and she's in the world that we created. That world included this kitchen space with a kitchen counter. And after a few minutes, her brain, her lizard brain, has so adapted to this new world that she sets her wine glass on the virtual kitchen counter.
Wow.
Which immediately falls to the floor and shatters in a million pieces. But she was there.
How funny.
And so that is virtual reality. You are taken to that new place. And it's getting better and better. It's making leaps and bounds.
Yeah, because so much of it that I've seen, and I haven't seen much of that. I haven't had the headset on my face more than really just once that I can remember. And it was very kind of cartoonish, animated-ish.
Right.
So, is it really getting to the point now where it's starting to look like real life?
Yeah, it's getting better. The resolution is getting better. The quality of the optics is getting better, and then the power of the machines are getting better, and it's going to continue to just make leaps. The opinion of the scientists that are working on it is that they will achieve what they call visual equivalence.
Wow. Meaning
you're not going to be able to distinguish between reality and virtual reality.
And is that a good thing?
I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing for visualization, for training, for experience, because one of the things that is powerful both about augmented reality and virtual reality, because it uses more of your senses, it triggers your lizard brain.
Yeah.
And so you are involved empathically, which is really hard to get people involved with our traditional media. With traditional 2D media, I can't affect you anymore. Like Michael Bay can't have a bigger explosion in downtown. I mean, nobody cares.
Yeah.
It just has no effect. But I can do something subtle in virtual reality, and I can affect you.
And is that because my other senses are kind of turned off to some extent, or that they're all working together?
Yeah, I think it's because they're all working
together.
together. Yeah.
Interesting. So augmented reality is then blending of
Correct.
the virtual reality with the real world?
Right. So augmented reality typically is putting virtual objects into your reality.
Okay.
And that's done. It's done with phones and tablets right now in the most prolific way. So that's something that Apple really advanced us by leaps and bounds by integrating high-quality augmented reality into all of their devices, and then it's available it's still in the early days of head-mounted augmented reality. There are a few different headsets, but they're still in the prototype phase. They're not quite ready for
Right. So does augmented reality and virtual reality require that I always wear some sort of device on my head?
So augmented reality you can do with your phone.
Okay.
So you don't have to. You can just hold your phone, and it's a engaging, compelling experience. And with both virtual reality and augmented reality, one of the things that to me shows its value is that I use it practically. So whenever I was designing a stadium piece for Ford, the best way for me to show it was in virtual reality to the client, because I wanted them to see it
As
at
it would
scale.
look. Yeah.
And I can easily do that in virtual reality, where to show them in any other way would have been too prohibitive or expensive.
So what are the applications that you're seeing the clients? And I know you say
Right.
your clients are big companies,
Mhm.
McDonald's and
Right.
giant companies. So what is it that they want you to be doing that they haven't been able to do up to now?
Right. So, we end up being the guys that can pull it off. And so we have a lot of marketing departments saying we want to do something with virtual reality, or we want to do something with augmented reality. And it's getting easier, but it has been difficult to find somebody that could actually
Make
do
it
it.
happen.
That
Okay.
could really pull it off, because it is new, because it's dealing with, in some cases, beta versions of software, because there's no proven sort of methods. We're having to invent, tools to pull it off, and we're just really good at, making it happen.
So I heard that there was a project that you did at South by Southwest for McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that? What did it look like?
So we were asked to create an experience for McDonald's for South by Southwest, and so the concept we ended up coming up with was to put you inside a Happy Meal, and inside the Happy Meal you had these fun tools, and you could paint the inside of the Happy Meal, and then after it was over, you could print out what you painted. You could post it on social media.
Oh, wow.
And there were a few things that we did that were pretty fun and innovative. One was it was just a really cool, fun, great experience. But the other part that was important, and this is part of kind of the holistic aspect to Groove Jones and that experience, is that this was at South by Southwest. So it's hot, lines are long, and that has an impact on how people feel about the experience. And so we created, an experience where you could come in, you could register with your phone, and then you could go make a custom sundae, or you could go make a custom burger, or you could go listen to music, and then you would get a text that you're next in line. So you never waited in line.
That's cool.
and you can have this great experience.
Well, Dale, I'm sorry we have to cut it off there. I can go for another hour, but thank you so much for being our guest today. Really enjoyed it. Listeners, please go to groovejodens.com and learn the rest of the story and hit them up, get them to create something cool for you.
Awesome. Thank you.